The archival chamber of the collective glowed with a soft azure light as High Archivist Zara Venn reviewed the latest stellar readings. Her crystalline appendages trembled slightly as she processed the data streams flowing through her neural interface. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The region known as the Scorpius Arm had gone dark. Not just communication silence, but a true darkness that seemed to devour light itself. 87 stellar systems had simply vanished from their long-range sensors over the past solar cycle. The pattern was unmistakable. Something was methodically consuming entire star systems, leaving behind nothing but cold, empty void. The collective, for all their technological advancement and mastery of quantum mechanics, had never encountered anything like this. Their civilization had spread across thousands of light years, transforming barren worlds into garden paradises and harnessing the power of stars. They had achieved what many would consider technological immortality, transferring their consciousness between crystalline matrices that could endure for millennia. But now, for the first time in 50,000 years, the collective faced extinction. Zara Venn initiated an emergency session of the Grand Council. Within moments, the chamber filled with the holographic projections of the collective's highest leaders, their crystalline forms shimmering with nervous energy. "Honorable Council," she began, her thoughts resonating through the quantum network that connected all present, "I bring grave news. The darkness we detected in the outer systems is not a natural phenomenon. It is alive, and it hungers." She shared the sensor data, allowing the Council to experience firsthand the horror of watching entire stars simply cease to exist. The reaction was immediate. Waves of fear and disbelief rippled through the quantum network. "How is this possible?" demanded First Speaker Saran. "Nothing can simply erase matter from existence." "Not erase," Zara Venn corrected. "Transform. Whatever these entities are, they appear to convert all forms of energy and matter into something our sensors cannot detect. They are, for lack of a better term, consuming reality itself." The council chamber erupted in a cascade of overlapping thoughts and emotions. The collective had faced many challenges in their long history, but nothing that threatened their very existence in quite this way. Their defensive systems, based on energy manipulation and quantum mechanics, would be useless against an enemy that fed on energy itself. "There must be a solution," Second Speaker Lyra interjected. "We have explored millions of worlds. Surely somewhere in our archives." Zara Venn's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been interpreted as grim determination. "There is one possibility. In our explorations, we have encountered a species that might be uniquely suited to face this threat. A species we have deliberately avoided until now, due to their volatile nature." She projected an image of a blue-green world, wrapped in swirling white clouds and orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. The reaction from the council was immediate and visceral. "Earth, the death world." Exaren's thoughts carried clear overtones of disbelief and fear. "They're barely into their atomic age. Their technology is primitive, their society fractured. They still wage war among themselves." "Precisely," Zara Venn responded. "They are warriors, bred by one of the most hostile environments we have ever encountered. Their bodies are extraordinarily resilient, capable of withstanding radiation levels that would shatter our crystalline forms. They think in ways we cannot predict, solve problems through intuitive leaps that defy our logical processes. And most importantly, they still used physical weapons, projectiles, explosives, and crude atomic devices. Barbaric technologies," someone muttered through the network. "Barbaric, yes," Zara Venn agreed. "But perhaps that is exactly what we need. Our advanced energy weapons are useless against the darkness. But physical projectiles, crude chemical explosions, these might be our only hope." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The collective had long ago abandoned physical warfare, viewing it as primitive and inefficient. Their entire defensive doctrine was based on energy manipulation and quantum shields. Against an enemy that fed on energy itself, Their greatest achievements had become their greatest weakness. Even if what you suggest is possible, Lyra cautioned, why would they help us? We have nothing to offer them that they cannot eventually develop on their own. Zara Venn projected another series of images. Humans rushing into burning buildings to save strangers, standing up to tanks with nothing but courage, diving into treacherous waters to rescue others. Because helping others, even at great personal risk, seems to be fundamental to their nature. They call it heroism and celebrate it in their culture. Their entertainment media is filled with stories of sacrificing oneself to save others, of standing against impossible odds to protect the innocent. You've studied them extensively, Gudrun noted. I have. And I believe if we approach them honestly, explain our situation and ask for help, they will respond. Not for reward, but because helping others in need seems to be encoded into their very beings. The council deliberated for what seemed like an eternity, though only minutes passed in real time. Finally, Gudrun spoke for them all. We have no choice. If the darkness cannot be stopped, it will eventually reach Earth anyway. At least this way, they have a chance to fight back. Send the signal. All frequencies, all languages we know they can decode. Tell them everything. Zara Venn began composing the message immediately, knowing that time was precious. As she worked, she reflected on the irony of their situation. The collective had avoided Earth for centuries, viewing its inhabitants as too dangerous and unpredictable to contact. Now those same qualities might be their only hope for survival. The message was simple but urgent. To the people of Earth, we are the collective, a civilization of beings you would call aliens. We face an enemy that consumes light and energy itself, leaving only darkness behind. Our weapons are useless. Our worlds are dying. We offer friendship and knowledge in exchange for help. Please respond. We cannot survive alone. As the message began its journey through space, Zara Venn turned her sensors toward Earth, watching and waiting. The humans were unpredictable, dangerous, and violent by the collective standards. But perhaps, she thought, that was exactly what the galaxy needed right now. The fate of countless civilizations now rested on the response from a single death world and its peculiar inhabitants. All they could do was wait, and hope that humanity's legendary determination and courage would extend beyond their own world to help species they had never met. In the darkness between the stars, the enemy continued its relentless advance, unaware that the quiet, peaceful collective had just called upon the most dangerous species they knew to stand against the growing void. General Sarah Chen stood at the window of the United Earth Defense Council chamber, watching the sunrise over the Rocky Mountains. The morning light painted the snow-capped peaks in shades of gold and pink, a stark contrast to the tense atmosphere inside. Behind her, representatives from every major nation on Earth argued about the message that had arrived 3 days ago. The alien transmission had bypassed all conventional communication channels, appearing simultaneously on every digital display connected to a network. The translation matrices included in the signal had made their desperate plea clear in every human language. Now, humanity faced its first real test as a united species. We cannot simply ignore this. Dr. James Rodriguez, head of xenobiology at the Global Science Initiative, pounded his fist on the conference table. This could be the greatest opportunity in human history. Think of the technological advances we could gain from contact with an advanced civilization. Or it could be a trap, countered Admiral Viktor Petrov, his weathered face hard with suspicion. These collective beings admit they've been watching us for centuries. Why reach out only now, when they're desperate? Sarah turned from the window, her expression thoughtful. At 45, she had spent her entire career preparing for scenarios that most people thought would never happen. First contact, alien invasion, interstellar warfare. But nothing in her training had quite prepared her for this situation. The timing doesn't matter, she said, her voice cutting through the debate. What matters is the choice we face now. An advanced civilization is asking for our help. Not because of our technology, which they admit is primitive by their standards, but because of who we are, what we can do. The room fell silent as she walked to the central holographic display, currently showing the sensor data the collective had shared. The visual representation of entire star systems going dark was chilling. "Look at this pattern," she continued, gesturing to the steady progression of the darkness. "Whatever this enemy is, it's methodical, intelligent, and if the collective's calculations are correct, it will eventually reach Earth, whether we help them or not. The only question is whether we face it now, with potential allies, or later, alone." Dr. Elena Rossi, the renowned quantum physicist, spoke up from her corner of the room. "The physics of what we're seeing is impossible by our current understanding, but the data is consistent. Something is literally converting matter and energy into a form we can't detect or interact with. It's like someone is editing reality itself, which is precisely why we need to act." Sarah pressed. "Our potential allies are energy-based beings. Their entire civilization runs on manipulating quantum fields and photonic technology. Against an enemy that feeds on energy itself, they're helpless. But us," she smiled grimly, "we still know how to fight the old-fashioned way." Admiral Petrov leaned forward, interest flickering in his eyes. "Kinetic weapons, chemical propellants, physical explosives." "Exactly. Everything the collective considers primitive might be exactly what we need. They've evolved beyond physical warfare. We haven't." Dr. Rodriguez cleared his throat. "The technological gap between us and the collective is vast. How could we possibly contribute meaningfully to this fight?" Sarah activated another hologram, this one showing human military history. "Because we think differently. Look at our history. Every time humanity has faced a technologically superior force, we've adapted, found weaknesses, created solutions no one expected. The collective thinks in quantum mathematics and energy fields. We think in blood and bone and steel. And determination," added Colonel Maria Santos, who had been quiet until now. "Don't forget that part of their message. They chose us not just for our physical capabilities, but because they've observed our capacity to face impossible odds when others need help." The room fell silent again as everyone contemplated the magnitude of the decision before them. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for centuries, but no one had imagined it would come like this. Not with greetings of peace and enlightenment, but with a desperate plea for help against an incomprehensible enemy. Finally, UN Secretary-General Amara Okafor spoke from the head of the table. "We need to vote. But before we do, I want everyone to understand what we're really deciding here. This isn't just about helping the collective. This is humanity's first step onto the galactic stage. How we respond will define our species in the eyes of an entire civilization." Sarah returned to her window, watching as the morning sun fully emerged above the mountains. "They're right about one thing," she said softly. "We are different. We've evolved on a world that tried to kill us every step of the way. We've survived ice ages, plagues, natural disasters. We've learned to adapt, to improvise, to never give up even when logic says we should." She turned back to the council. "The collective sees these traits as primitive, maybe even frightening. But they're also seeing, maybe for the first time, that being civilized doesn't mean forgetting how to fight. Being peaceful doesn't mean being helpless, and being technologically advanced doesn't always mean being right." The voting process took less than an hour. The decision was nearly unanimous. Within days, humanity's response was ready to be transmitted back to the collective. Message received. "We stand ready to help. Our differences may be great, but our determination to protect life transcends them. Send coordinates. We're coming." As Sarah oversaw the transmission, she couldn't help but wonder what the collective would make of humanity's response. They had probably expected lengthy negotiations, demands for technology or knowledge in return. Instead, they got a simple promise of help, backed by the full commitment of a species that had spent its entire existence learning how to survive against the odds. The real work would begin now. preparing Earth's first interstellar military expedition, adapting human weapons and tactics for space warfare, training soldiers and scientists to work with alien allies whose very nature defied human understanding. But as Sarah looked at the faces around her, determined, focused, already planning and preparing, she knew one thing for certain. The enemy that consumed stars was about to learn why Earth was classified as a death world, and why its inhabitants had survived there anyway. Captain Maya Patel stood in the observation deck of the UES Stormbreaker, watching as the massive ship emerged from the Collective's quantum gateway. The view before her defied description. A vast crystalline city floating in space, its surfaces reflecting starlight in patterns that seemed to form living mathematics. Beautiful, isn't it? Dr. Rodriguez's voice came from behind her. The xenobiologist had barely slept since they'd arrived in collective space, too excited by every new discovery. Their entire civilization is built on manipulating light and quantum fields. Even their bodies are crystalline matrices capable of storing consciousness itself. Maya nodded, but her attention was focused on the tactical displays. The Stormbreaker was humanity's first true space warship, built in record time by combining human military technology with collective quantum engineering. She represented everything humanity had learned about warfare, adapted for space combat by minds that refused to accept impossible as an answer. Status report, she called out to her bridge crew. All systems nominal, Captain. Lieutenant Kumar responded from his station. Kinetic weapon systems at full capacity. Collective quantum shielding integrated and functioning. Engineering reports the hybrid drive is stable. The ship herself was a testament to human ingenuity. When the Collective had explained that their quantum technology couldn't be fully adapted for human use due to our biology, humanity had simply worked around the problem. The Stormbreaker carried traditional nuclear engines for primary propulsion, but used collective quantum fields for maneuvering and defense. Her main weapons were purely human: railguns, missile batteries, and what the engineers called spatial disruption charges, a new weapon designed specifically for this enemy. High Archivist Zara Ven's holographic form materialized beside Maya. The crystalline alien had become humanity's primary liaison with the Collective, and despite their vast differences, Maya had grown to respect her. "Your species continues to surprise us, Captain," Zara Ven communicated. "We expected it would take years to create functional hybrid technology. You did it in months." Maya smiled grimly. "Necessity is the mother of invention, as we say. Having an enemy that literally eats stars tends to motivate people." The ship's tactical officer, Sarah Chen's daughter Jessica, called out from her station. "Captain, incoming data stream from collective long-range sensors. The darkness has claimed another system. They're accelerating their advance." Maya's expression hardened. "Show me." The holographic display transformed, showing the steady march of the void across space. Each dark spot represented a dead system, stars, planets, and any life they might have harbored, all converted into something beyond detection or understanding. "What's different about this pattern?" Maya asked, noting something odd in the enemy's movement. "They're adapting," Zara Ven observed, her crystalline form pulsing with concern. "They've never encountered resistance before. Now that the Collective has begun evacuating systems in their path, they're moving faster, becoming more aggressive. They're intelligent," Maya concluded, "not just consuming energy, but actively hunting it. That's good." "Good?" Zara Ven's confusion was evident in the fluctuating patterns of her form. "If they can think, they can be outthought. If they can adapt, they can be predicted. And if they're hunting," Maya's smile was fierce, "they can be trapped." She turned to her crew. "Signal the rest of the fleet. Begin Operation Stormbreaker Phase 1. The plan was audacious, perhaps even insane by collective standards. But that was exactly why it might work. The Collective had tried fighting the darkness with pure energy weapons, only to watch their attacks be absorbed. Humanity's approach was different. The Stormbreaker and her sister ships began deploying their first weapon. thousands of small probes, each carrying a minimal power signature. The collective called them light thorns, tiny crystalline structures that could amplify and redirect energy. Humans had taken the concept and weaponized it. Probes deployed in grid pattern alpha, Lieutenant Kumar reported. Quantum field generators online. Begin power-up sequence, Maya ordered. Collective vessels, stand by to initiate quantum resonance. The trap was elegant in its simplicity. The probes would create a web of quantum fields, similar to the collective's defensive systems. But instead of trying to block or destroy the darkness, they would do something else entirely. Enemy forces detected, Jessica announced. Multiple void signatures entering the outer sensor range. They're taking the bait. Maya watched as the dark entities moved toward their position, drawn by the energy signatures they had deliberately leaked. The darkness thought it was hunting prey. It had no way of knowing it was being hunted instead. All ships, maintain position, Maya commanded. Let them come to us. The tension on the bridge was palpable as the void entities approached. These were the things that had devoured entire star systems, that had brought a civilization far more advanced than humanity to its knees. And humanity's first response was to try to trap them. Energy conversion patterns detected, Zaraven reported, her form flickering with what might have been anxiety. They're beginning to feed on the quantum fields. Perfect, Maya smiled. Initiate Phase 2. The trap was sprung. As the void entities engaged with the quantum fields, the probes suddenly changed their resonance. Instead of providing energy to feed on, they began creating interference patterns, forcing the entities to manifest more fully in normal space. Multiple solid contacts, Jessica called out. They're materializing within the targeting grid. All ships, weapons free, Maya ordered. Fire at will. The space around the Stormbreaker erupted with humanity's answer to an enemy that fed on energy itself. Railguns fired hypervelocity rounds at significant fractions of light speed. Missiles carrying warheads designed to disrupt space itself streaked toward their targets. The collective ships, coordinating perfectly with their human allies, used their quantum technology not to attack, but to prevent the entities from shifting back into their energy-consuming state. The void entities, forced into a more physical form and faced with weapons they couldn't simply absorb, began to react. Some tried to retreat, only to find their escape routes blocked by overlapping quantum fields. Others attempted to adapt, their forms shifting and changing, but the human weapons kept coming, attacking from angles and with methods they had never encountered before. For the first time since they had begun their consumption of the galaxy, the darkness learned what it meant to face an enemy that didn't play by their rules. The battle was far from over. This was just the first engagement, a test of concepts and strategies. But as Maya watched her crew work seamlessly with their alien allies, as she saw the first void entities break apart under combined human and collective assault, she felt a fierce pride. Humanity had taken its first steps into interstellar warfare not with overwhelming technology or superior numbers, but with what had always been their greatest strength, the ability to adapt, to innovate, and to find ways to win even when victory seemed impossible. The darkness had ruled space through fear and inevitability. But now it faced something it had never encountered before, a species that had evolved on a death world, that had survived by learning to fight smarter rather than stronger, and that had never learned to accept defeat as an option. The battle for the galaxy had begun, and humanity had just proven they belonged in it. The holographic war room aboard the UES Stormbreaker hummed with activity as Captain Maya Patel reviewed the data from their first major engagement with the darkness. Beside her, Zaraven's crystalline form pulsed with what Maya had learned to recognize as excitement. Your strategy worked better than we anticipated, the High Archivist admitted. We've analyzed the combat data. The void entities suffered a 30% reduction in coherent mass when forced into physical manifestation. But they adapted quickly, Maya noted, manipulating the holographic replay. By the end of the battle, they were already developing countermeasures against our quantum containment fields. Dr. Rodriguez, who had been studying the biological readings they'd managed to gather, spoke up from his station. "That's what fascinates me. These aren't just energy-consuming entities. They're learning, evolving. Each encounter makes them more dangerous." The implications weren't lost on anyone in the room. Their first victory, while significant, had revealed just how formidable their enemy truly was. The void entities weren't mindless forces of nature. They were intelligent predators that had evolved to feed on the very essence of reality itself. Lieutenant Jessica Chen pulled up another holographic display, this one showing the enemy's movement patterns across multiple star systems. "Look at this. They're changing their hunting strategy. Instead of moving in a straight line, they're now creating corridors of darkness, cutting off potential escape routes." Maya studied the pattern, remembering similar strategies from Earth's military history. "They're hurting their prey," she realized. "Like wolves driving deer into a trap." "Precisely," Zara Van agreed. "They're no longer simply consuming systems at random. They're strategically isolating populated regions of space, preventing evacuation." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Their enemy wasn't just powerful. It was smart, capable of complex tactical thinking. And now that humanity had shown it could hurt them, they were adapting their strategies accordingly. "Captain," a new voice called out. Maya turned to see Commander David Santos, her tactical officer, entering the war room. "The engineering team has completed their analysis of the weapon effectiveness data. You're going to want to see this." The holographic display shifted to show detailed breakdowns of how each human weapon system had performed against the void entities. The results were both encouraging and concerning. The railguns were most effective when the entities were fully materialized, Santos explained, but their ability to partially phase out of normal space made hitting them consistently difficult. The spatial disruption charges worked better, but they're consuming enormous amounts of resources to manufacture. "What about the quantum resonance torpedoes?" Maya asked, referring to their newest hybrid weapons that combined human explosive technology with collective quantum science. "Mixed results. They're effective, but the void entities seem to be learning how to absorb the quantum components before detonation. We need something new, something they can't adapt to easily." Maya turned to Zara Van. "Your people have been studying these entities longer than we have. What are we missing? There must be something in their behavior we can exploit." The High Archivist's form flickered thoughtfully. Perhaps we've been approaching this wrong. We've been thinking of them as energy consumers, but what if that's not their primary nature? What if consumption is merely a means to an end?" Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward, intrigued. "What do you mean?" "In all our observations, we've never seen them create anything, only consume. Yet they display intelligence, strategy, coordination. What if they're not simply feeding? What if they're searching for something?" Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "Searching for what?" "We don't know," Zara Van admitted. "But consider this. They've consumed thousands of star systems, yet they continue to advance. If simple energy consumption was their goal, why not simply remain in energy-rich systems? Why keep moving?" Jessica pulled up new data on her console. "The pattern matches. Look at their movement across the galaxy. It's not random, even when accounting for tactical adjustments. They're following some kind of path. A path to what?" Santos wondered aloud. Maya's mind raced with possibilities. If the void entities were searching for something specific, it could change everything about how they fought this war. But it also meant, "We need to understand them better," she declared. "Not just their capabilities, but their nature, their purpose." "Zara Van, can your quantum sensors be modified to take more detailed readings when they're partially materialized?" "Yes, but it would require our ships to get dangerously close to them. Then we'll provide cover." Maya turned to Santos. "Begin working on new battle formations. I want our ships positioned to protect the collective vessels while they gather data. We'll use the railguns and disruption charges to keep the entities materialized long enough for deep scans. That's extremely risky, Zara Ven cautioned. Our ships were not designed for close combat. Maya smiled grimly. No, but ours were. That's why we're here, isn't it? To do the things you can't. The next few hours were spent developing new tactics and strategies. Human military doctrine was combined with collective scientific knowledge in ways neither species had imagined before. The void entities had forced them to think differently, to challenge their assumptions about what was possible. As Maya watched her human crew working seamlessly with their collective allies, she realized something profound was happening. Two vastly different species, one born in the harshness of a death world, the other evolved to near energy-based transcendence, were learning from each other. Human aggression was being tempered by collective wisdom, while collective caution was being energized by human determination. "We're receiving reports from the fleet," Jessica announced. "Multiple void entity signatures detected approaching the Proxima system. They'll be within engagement range in 6 hours." Maya straightened, her decision made. "Send word to all ships. We're implementing the new battle plan immediately. I want every collective sensor array modified for deep scanning within 4 hours. Human ships will take point position in the new defense grid. The entities will recognize this as a significant change in our strategy," Zara Ven observed. "They will adapt." "Good," Maya replied. "Let them adapt. Let them learn and evolve their tactics. Because that's what we do best. We learn, we adapt, and we never stop fighting. And now they're going to learn what happens when humanity decides something is worth protecting." As the crew rushed to prepare for the coming battle, Maya couldn't help but feel a fierce pride. Humanity had entered this war to help an alien civilization, but they were discovering something more important. That courage, determination, and the will to protect others transcended species. The void entities might be searching for something in their relentless advance across the galaxy, but they had found something else entirely. A coalition of species ready to stand against the darkness, no matter the cost. The next battle would be different. They would fight not just with weapons, but with understanding. And maybe, just maybe, they would finally begin to unravel the mystery of what drove their enemies' endless hunger. The war for the galaxy was evolving, and humanity was helping to write its next chapter. The bridge of the UES Stormbreaker was eerily quiet as Captain Maya Patel studied the holographic display before her. After months of battles, adaptation, and learning, they had finally discovered what the void entities had been searching for all along. The revelation was both breathtaking and terrifying. "It can't be coincidence," Dr. Rodriguez said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The pattern matches perfectly." The display showed a three-dimensional map of the void entity's path across the galaxy, overlaid with quantum resonance readings they'd gathered during their latest encounters. When viewed from the right perspective, their seemingly random advance formed a clear pattern. They were following lines of ancient quantum disturbances, invisible trails left in space-time itself. They're following the breadcrumbs, Maya realized. All this time, they'd been tracking something. Zara Ven's crystalline form pulsed with intense patterns that Maya had learned meant profound distress. "The readings match archives from our most ancient records. Before the collective, before our civilization achieved quantum transcendence, there were others. We called them the architects." "Your predecessors?" Lieutenant Jessica Chen asked, looking up from her tactical displays. "More than that. They were the first to achieve quantum manipulation on a stellar scale, but they disappeared millions of years ago, leaving behind only traces of their work, quantum echoes in the fabric of space-time." Maya's mind raced with the implications. The void entities aren't just consuming energy. They're consuming these quantum echoes, these remnants of the architects. But why? To understand that, Commander Santos interjected, "We need to understand what happened to the architects." "Zara Ven, what do your records say about their disappearance?" The High Archivist's form shifted through complex patterns before stabilizing. They were attempting something unprecedented, a complete transformation of consciousness into pure quantum state, not just energy-based existence like the collective, but something beyond even our understanding. The record suggests they succeeded, but then they created the void entities. Dr. Rodriguez finished, his eyes wide with realization. Not intentionally, perhaps, but as a byproduct of their transformation. These things were fighting. They're like quantum antibodies, trying to clean up what they perceive as quantum contamination in the universe. And now they're following the architect's trail, Maya concluded, consuming everything with similar quantum signatures, which explains why they're so focused on the collective's technology. The revelation changed everything. The void entities weren't simply mindless destroyers. They were carrying out a function programmed into their very nature by beings who had transcended normal existence millions of years ago. Each star system they consumed was another step in their relentless pursuit of quantum contamination. Captain, Jessica's voice cut through the contemplative silence. Long-range sensors detecting massive void entity formations. They're converging on the collective's home system. All of them. The tactical display updated, showing hundreds of void signatures moving with clear purpose. They had finally found what they had been searching for, the largest concentration of quantum technology in the known galaxy. Maya's expression hardened. They think they've found their primary target, but we're going to show them something they've never encountered before. She turned to her crew. Signal all ships. Operation Sunforge is now in effect. The plan they had developed was audacious, combining everything they had learned about the void entities with humanity's tendency to think beyond conventional limitations. The collective had provided the quantum science, but it was human insight that had recognized how to use it in a way their enemy wouldn't expect. All ships report ready, Santos announced. Quantum resonance generators at full power. Begin Phase 1, Maya ordered. Let's give them what they're looking for. The combined human collective fleet began generating massive quantum signatures, similar to those left behind by the architects. As predicted, the void entities responded immediately, drawn to what they perceived as their primary targets. They're taking the bait, Jessica reported. Multiple void formations adjusting course to intercept. What followed was the largest space battle in known history. Human warships moved in precise formation, their primitive kinetic weapons keeping the void entities materialized while collective vessels generated complex quantum interference patterns. But this time, they weren't just fighting to survive. Phase 2, Maya commanded as the void entities committed fully to the attack. Initiate quantum resonance cascade. The trap was sprung. The quantum signatures that had drawn the entities in suddenly changed frequency, matching precisely with their own quantum structure. The void entities, for the first time in their existence, found themselves unable to process the energy they were consuming. It's working, Dr. Rodriguez exclaimed. Their quantum matrices are destabilizing. They can't maintain coherence. The void entities try to adapt, but the humans had learned from their previous encounters. Every time the entities changed their energy absorption patterns, the fleet adjusted the quantum frequencies accordingly. It was like trying to drink from a fire hose that kept changing its pressure and direction. Multiple void entities showing critical instability, Jessica reported. They're turning on each other. Maya watched in fascination as the void entities, unable to process the energy they had absorbed, began to fragment and collapse. Some tried to transfer their excess energy to others, creating a cascade effect that spread through their entire formation. All ships, full power to quantum generators, she ordered. Don't let up. Force them to keep consuming until they overload. The strategy was working, but the battle was far from over. The void entities, even in their death throes, were incredibly dangerous. Several human ships were lost to their desperate final attacks, their crews sacrificing themselves to maintain the quantum barrier that prevented the entities from escaping. Hours passed in a brutal dance of energy and matter, quantum science, and human determination. Finally, Jessica's voice cut through the chaos. Captain, void entity signatures are dropping exponentially. They're actually destroying themselves. The tactical display told the story. The void entities, their quantum matrices completely destabilized, were collapsing in on themselves. Those that tried to flee were caught in the quantum wake of their own destruction. It was a chain reaction that spread through their entire swarm. When it was over, the space around them was filled with a new kind of darkness, not the hungry void of their enemy, but the quiet emptiness of normal space. The void entities, created millions of years ago by beings who had transcended normal existence, had finally been undone by the combined efforts of a primitive species and the civilization they had come to help. In the aftermath, as rescue operations began and damage reports came in, Maya found herself standing with Zara Ven in the Stormbreaker's observation deck. "Your species continues to amaze us," the High Archivist said. "You took our scientific understanding and used it in ways we never imagined possible." Maya smiled. "That's what humans do best. We don't just think outside the box. We question why there needs to be a box at all." "The galaxy will be very different now," Zara Ven observed. The void entities were not the only legacy of the architects. There are more mysteries out there, more challenges to face. "Then we'll face them together," Maya replied. "Humans and the collective, quantum science and determination, wisdom and courage. We've proven what we can accomplish when we combine our strengths." As they watched the combined fleet regrouping against the backdrop of stars, both human and alien knew that this was more than just a victory. It was the dawn of a new era in galactic history, one where the primitive species from a death world had proven that sometimes the most advanced solution isn't always the best one, and that courage, innovation, and the willingness to stand against impossible odds could overcome even the most ancient of threats. The void entities were gone, but they had left behind something unexpected. A galaxy where different species had learned to work together, where advanced civilization and human determination had combined to create something greater than either could have achieved alone. It was, Maya thought, exactly the kind of legacy humanity had hoped to create when they first answered the collective's desperate call for help. Not just saviors, but partners in building a better future for all species. The real work was just beginning.